All right, Greg Valliere, I want to bring in Greg here, a friend of the show, and always has his pulse on what's happening on Main Street and Wall Street. So, Greg, I mean, how much longer does Bernie Sanders have here? Some are questioning why he's still hanging on.
I think a lot of Democrats, Alexis, are starting to resent him. He's pushing Biden to the left, which is the last thing Biden wants to do on climate change, issues like that. I think that Biden would like to make an adroit pivot to the center. It's hard to do with Bernie still in the race. So I think over the next few days, the pressure will be enormous on Bernie to get out. He can still have a platform, but I think the party has to come together.
And what about the effect of the coronavirus on the overall presidential election? Do you think that this is playing more as a positive for President Trump or as a negative? Because if you look at recent polls, there was a Wall Street Journal NBC poll, there was an Axios poll. Confidence does not seem to be with the president right now. Most people are more confident in things like the CDC and local and state governments as opposed to federal governments and President Trump.
I think you're right. You look at the numbers for Dr. Fauci. You look at how popular actually Mike Pence has been. I think Pence has done a pretty good job. Mnuchin's done a pretty good job. Trump still wants to boast about how great a job he's done. And I think he got off to a very rocky start. So I never thought I'd say this, but I think the chances of Trump's reelection have dipped quite a bit. I think that unless he turns this around quickly, he'll be the underdog to Biden.
And I want to talk a little bit about this stimulus package that's hopefully making its way quickly through Congress. Yesterday, we saw Treasury Secretary Mnuchin come out and say that this is going to be $1 trillion stimulus package, more than we saw in the 2008 recession when I think the package was more like $750 billion. You actually think $1 trillion is underestimating what might be needed?
Alexis, I think $1 trillion is the floor. We get a bill in a couple of days for $100 billion to help victims with unemployment aid, sick leave aid, things like that. Then next week we talk about the big one, which will at least be $1 trillion. And then I have a hunch there's going to be another bill in the summer close to $1 trillion. So these are staggering numbers. The deficit may go as high as $3 trillion in this fiscal year, but nobody really cares about that. I'll give Trump credit. I think he's had a pretty good week compared to some previous weeks. When he said yesterday, we're going to go big, it gave everyone on Capitol Hill cover, including Republicans who were reluctant to spend a huge amount of money. They've got cover from Trump, and I give him credit, and I think that the sky's the limit on how much they're going to spend.
Is there anything Trump can do right now to save his presidency? I mean, if he throws everything at this pandemic, which it seems like he's ready to do, and we saw last week him parade out CEOs of major Fortune 500 companies, to be able to pull all of that together, some are saying not quick enough, but he's pulling it together. Is that going to be enough as this plays out over the weeks and possibly months ahead? Would it be enough to actually turn confidence in favor of Trump? And perhaps some people would say, you know what, we just don't need the regime change in Washington during such a tenuous time.
Well, I think he needs to move the country. I think he needs to communicate consistently. He needs to stop boasting. He needs to stop picking fights with governors. There are things that he can do. If this does start to turn around, sure, he could win re-election. But I think a calming presence is not one of the attributes that he brings to this crisis.
Hey investors, Zach Guzman here. Are you interested in learning more about the markets and getting the latest financial news? Well, then click right here to subscribe to our Yahoo Finance YouTube channel. Get the latest up-to-the-minute market analysis, big interviews in the world of finance, and information on how to manage your money every day wherever you are.